I shouldn't put her in there. I think it's almost always strong enough. Whatever it says.
I'd like to welcome you all to Hope Unitarian Church. It's wonderful to see everyone today up atop this hill. I'm the Reverend Justin McCreary, and I'm excited that you're all with us today. If you're new to Unitarian Universalism, one of the things I always like to say is that we're covenantal. We're not creedal. So we focus less on what we believe and more on how we interact with one another. And these words can be summed up with words attributed to David Farring. One need not think alike to love alike. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. Being rooted in love, we believe that all human beings should be treated with dignity and respect. And on this hill, we seek hope, love, justice together in community. Whoever you are, whomever you love, and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. This morning, I'd like to introduce our guest pianist, Miss Lisa Lawmeyer. She will be... So, if things don't traverse as normally they do, it's my fault. Absolutely my fault, but we want to thank you for being here today, Lisa, and thank you for filling in for Christy. So let's rise, embody your spirit as you feel so called, and sing our first hymn of gathering. It is our tradition at Hope Unitarian Church and at many Unitarian churches across the country to light a chalice at the beginning of each service. And as we do that, we say these words together. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life that we share together. You may be seated. Our invocation this morning comes from the Reverend Scott Taylor. We gather today to receive the blessing of trust. May the relationships in this room remind us that we do not have to depend only on ourselves. May the quiet we share help us hear and renew our faith in that still small voice inside. May the music inspire us to hold tight to the restorative rhythms of the world. May the words offered remind us that we too have a voice, one that must be trusted and shared. With our hearts open, let us begin. And at this time, as I said, we're a covenantal church. Let's read our covenant together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. And I would again invite you to rise and body your spirit as we sing hymn number 15, The Lone Wild Bird. Be seated.
Good morning. My name is James Donovan. I have a few announcements for you today. First, I want to share with you something that David Lynn, the master of the bad dad joke, shared with me this morning. What do you get when you mix a Lhasa Apso with a collie? A collapso. That's a dog that can be easily folded for easy transport. Okay, so there was some executive order that said that books weren't going to be allowed at the garage sale in June, and that's been reversed, I think, by some judicial decision. So you can pack up your books and bring them to the book sale. Yesterday there was a herstory, am I saying that right, meeting here at Hope, and it had a great turnout. And so stay tuned for some more information and more meetings from that group. Women of Hope will be meeting this Thursday, March 6th at 6:30 p.m. It's a potluck, so everybody show up and bring some food to share. Next Sunday, March 9th, we will have the kickoff of our annual pledge drive. We'll start with a pledge drive-related adult forum at 10 a.m. And we'll finish with our chili cook-off. We're doing something different. The chili cook-off will happen after the service next Sunday. And we need people to sign up in the fellowship hall if you want to bring your special chili. I think there's still going to be a competition like normal, but it's happening after the service next Sunday, and it's all part of our pledge drive kickoff. Now, it's that time of year when a lot of awards are given out, and you hear this phrase often, oh, and I forgot something. Bear with me. There's award shows on TV, and, what do they ask the people on the red carpet? They say, who are you wearing, right? And, I know that a lot of you know this is that time of year because several of you have asked me, who am I wearing? And I want you to know that I am wearing special fashions from our new Hope online store. And you can find the link to that online. Rebecca Jones, you look fabulous today. Who are you wearing? Carol Young. Oh, you look spectacular. I've never seen you look so beautiful. Who are you wearing? Oh, fabulous. Janet Nobles, who are you wearing?
I'm wearing the latest in outer gear.
You'll notice that hers has a zipper. Christy Chestnut Levine, who are you wearing?
A fashionable pullover hoodie from Hope Store.
And Brooklyn, you can see that these things come in all different sizes. She's got on her apron. Brooklyn, who are you wearing, Brooklyn? The Hope Online Store. We didn't rehearse with Brooklyn. Trenton, you want to show us your shirt? No. Are you a teenager yet? How old are you? Yeah, it's already happening. Thanks, everybody.
Good morning, everyone. Today, we're going to be reading I Can Do Hard Things, Mindful Affirmations for Kids by Gabby Garcia. I don't always feel brave, confident, or strong. Sometimes it seems easier to follow others along. I get so many messages about how I should be, pulled in different directions. I feel wobbly. When this happens, I listen for that quiet voice inside. When I pay attention, that voice is my guide. I connect with the love and strength it brings. It helps me remember I can do hard things. I can be a friend to myself. I can feel all my feelings. I can ask for help. I can try again rather than give up. I can believe in myself. I can speak up when it would be easier to stay quiet. I can say no even to my friends. I can apologize. I can forgive. I can listen to understand different points of view. I can care for my community. I can choose kindness. I can practice peace. I can share my gifts with the world. I can be myself. Hard things can be about what we think, feel, say, or do. What's hard for me may not be hard for you. You are you, and I am me. We walk through the world differently. Trusting my voice helps me find my way. I go braver and stronger every day. The tough stuff I face is all my own, but I can also remember I'm not alone. I'm ready for the hard things I have to do, and please remember, so are you.
So I appreciate you reading the story, Nia. I selected this story because one of the lines in this story talked about the voice inside her head. And does anybody else have a voice in their head? Right. Well, let me. No. Sometimes is that voice hard on you? Yeah, it is for me. And that made me think this book is called Mindful Affirmations. What is an affirmation? Anybody? What is an affirmation? Something positive or nice that you can say to yourself. And I think that's why I selected this book, is because what I call negative self-talk, we can combat with positive statements like, I can do hard things. Sometimes it's hard to think of all the good things that we can do when we're surrounded and made difficult by the difficult stuff. Does anybody here, do you ever tell yourself important good things? Like, what are you good at? You can play the guitar. You can play multiple instruments, can't you? And you taught yourself some of those instruments. Yeah. That's a very, very difficult thing to do, a hard thing. Anyone else? What are some things that you can do? Yes, ma'am. Roller skating is very good. I don't think I can anymore. Yes? That's a nice affirmation. I'm good at math. Horseback riding. I've only been on a horse once, and it had a lot of people helping. So we can do hard things, can't we? And sometimes when that negative self-talk really just centers itself in our brains, we can combat that with the positive reminders of all the hard things that we can do. Nia?
Or all the hard things that we've already overcome. So I'm going to issue a challenge for you this week. Encourage someone else, affirm yourself, or affirm someone else. And remind them and yourselves, no matter what's going around or what's happening in the world or in your life, that you can do hard things.
Well, blessed be. Go now in peace.
Justin, my favorite affirmation is, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. Yeah, I think you have to be over the age of 50 to remember that. This may be a first. We're going to have our reading today as a poem about a fish. Telly's favorite artist was Alice Neal. Thanks. When he first came to my house, I propped up her bright yellow shade with open window and a vase of flowers, postcard size, behind his first fishbowl. I thought it might give him something to look at, like the center of a house you keep coming back to, a hearth, a root for your eye. It was a wondering in me that came up with that thought, a kind of empathy across my air and through his water. Maybe the first word I cast out between us in case he could hear. Telly would stare at that painting for hours, hanging there with his glassy eyes wide open. At night, he wanted the bottom, as if it were a warm bed. He'd lay there, sort of dreaming, his eyes gray and dim and thoughtless. For months, he came back to her, the way a critic or lover can build a whole life on the study of one great work. I don't know why he stopped. Maybe it was when he first noticed me, the face above my hand, feeding for, sometimes, when I'd set the food on top, he'd still watch me, eye to eye, as if saying, food isn't enough. Once when I bent, he jumped up out of the water and kissed my lips. What is a fish's kiss like? You'd think it would be cold, slimy, but it was quick, nippy, hard. Maybe it was just what I expected. For all our fears of touch, it takes so long to learn how to take in. When he stopped coming to the top, I guess I did all the wrong things. The fish medicine that smelled, measured carefully for his ounce of weight. For his gills worked so hard and he lay still, tipped over slightly, like a dead boat. How do you stop the hurt of having to breathe? After I took him to the middle of the yellow bridge right near the Andy Warhol Museum, I had put a paper towel in a painted egg and laid him in it at the top. I opened the casket and emptied him out into the water.
I apologize for this. So we're going to do another congregational hymn, and I would invite you to rise for it, and we're going to sing hymn number 108, My Life Flows in Endless Song. All of them? 3? A few weeks ago, I attended the Southwest Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association retreat. It was a nice retreat center. It was a Catholic retreat center, so I stayed in the St. Francis house. All houses were named after saints. And when I found out where I was staying in the St. Francis house, I made the joke that I would just CC my way over there. And just so you know, I did work very hard on that joke once I found out where I was staying. It was a very understated room. Crucifix on the wall, images of saints, 2 twin beds, gave off a very monastic vibe. We had a wonderful speaker, and I hope to utilize some of the things I learned in later sermons from the speaker. But today I'm reflecting on something that took place during the worship service. And just so you know, and just in case you've never been to a minister's retreat, we held worship services twice a day. Because when you put that many ministers in the same place for a few days, you'll always end up with multiple services. It's just something we like to do. We talked a lot about the current socio-political sphere. We talked a lot about our trans friends and our fears for them and for ourselves amid the rise of Christian nationalism. It is something we think about, something that's always on our mind. We are a religious tradition that has a history of not fitting in. We have a tradition of people that Christianity had spent a lot of energy trying to wipe out. Our pluralism and our acceptance of historical heresies tend to scare many fundamentalist Christian thinkers in the past and in the present. We all remember Michael Servetus, though he did not refer to himself a Unitarian, shared our values and was burned at the stake over differences with Calvin. Arius was exiled until his death, and Francis David or David Ferenc died in prison. We have a connection not just to the heresy, but to the prejudice imposed upon us by fundamentalist Christianity and historical Christianity. So to hear that a fundamentalist movement is becoming nationalistic can cause a little anxiety. Much of our reading and exhortation during this time in this context will deal with resistance to Christian nationalism, through support of our trans and non-binary family, through the way we donate, through the way that we speak, and how we use social media. And even if we choose to protest at some level, we are called to resist systems that would denigrate love. But to live only in anxiety and to live that militaristically ignores the words of Henry David Thoreau, who said we should live deeply as to suck every drop of marrow from the bone of life. And the most powerful thing I heard at the ministers' retreat did not take place in the lectures. It was not a call to the streets, not a call to defiance, but during a worship service, Reverend Kaya Hartwood declared in a loud voice, "Joy is resistance." She had us shout back to her, "Joy is resistance." Over and over again, we reminded ourselves that joy is resistance. Think for a moment about that statement. Many of us are overwhelmed living in this 24-hour news cycle. We feel as though we should spend every moment speaking out, spending every instance fighting the power, and then we're reminded to seek joy because joy is resistance. My recent sermons have been pretty heavy, and they may be heavy for a while, but before I left on the drive to my retreat, I decided I would take a different approach, knowing that we need not live our life under this constant pressure. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Then I heard the words, joy is resistance. For many of us, joy might feel inappropriate or cause us guilt. Nevertheless, joy is important, and joy is resistance. I began this sermon like I do many others, and I Googled the phrase that would serve at the center, the phrase I would repeat over and over again and throughout the sermon. And I kept coming back with a quote from a poem that was released in 2009 by African-American poet Toy Derricott. In many of the blog posts and articles where I would read about joy as an act of resistance, I would see Derricott's name come up with very little reference to the actual usage of the phrase. What I found after doing some digging is that this phrase appears at the beginning of a different poem, not the one that's often referenced and not the one that we read for our reading, but a poem in her memoir, The Undertaker's Daughter. The poem goes like this. Joy is an act of resistance. Why would a black woman need a fish to love? Why did she need a flash of red living in the corner of her eye, as if she could love nothing up close but had to step away from it, come back to drop a few seeds and let it grab onto her as if it caught her on some hook that couldn't hurt? Why did she need a fish, a red thorn, or among the thorns that flower? What does her love have to do with 500 years of sorrow, then joy coming up like a small breath, a bubble? What does it have to do with the graveyards of the Atlantic in her mother's heart? Poem by Derricott is about a fish. There is a series of poems in her book called The Telly Cycle, while she writes about her relationship to a small red beta fish. She asks the question, what does her love have to do with 500 years of sorrow, then joy coming up like a small breath, a bubble? See, this is a straightforward reference to the North Atlantic slave trade in antebellum America. The reference to 500 years of sorrow is a common reference when it comes to the slave trade, and she balances this dark statement with the lightness of a bubble. She continues asking, what does it have to do with the graveyards of the Atlantic in her mother's heart? The Telly cycle is a strange approach, at least to me, but then I'm not very good at writing poetry. She balances in this series suffering and joy. She writes 7 poems about a fish that costs less than $2. How do I know this fish costs less than $2? She tells me in another poem that it was $1.98. She would pay sometimes $100 a month to have someone feed Telly while she was away. People would ask her questions like, why don't you just let him go for a few days? He'll be fine. And just get another fish when this one dies. Or why are you spending so much time talking about a fish? But the answer is given in the first line of the Telly cycle, the first line of the 7 poems about her fish. Joy is an act of resistance. Her book talks about the abuse she lived with for years from her father, the way he would beat her and let her know that he loved her, the confusion a child feels knowing that their parents hate each other, and how when dad comes home, he is often violent, but then somehow confusingly so loving. She talked about the feeling of confusion to love her father and to hate him at the same time. She talks about the hard life she lived, and then she says joy is an act of resistance. And what we find in the poem that we read that we read for our reading, For Telly the Fish is what the name of the poem is. We know that this fish brought her joy when it would nibble her finger and jump up and kiss her. This fish brought her joy, and when it died, it brought her sorrow. She asked the question, what does her love have to do with 500 years of sorrow? Well, joy is an act of resistance. Then what does it have to do with the graveyards of the Atlantic in her mother's heart? Joy is an act of resistance. I was watching a TikTok by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She was responding to the comment that the news cycle is really affecting someone's health. They said that this is really affecting my mental health. And I know that feeling, and what AOC said was great. She didn't talk about bucking up. She didn't talk about how we need every person to speak truth to power. She didn't tell them that you have to power through or stay connected 24/7. She said, turn off the notifications on your phone. You only have to read the news once a day, and you decide when to go to the news. Now I'm reminded of the thing that we are asked to shout over and over again at the minister's retreat. Joy is resistance. I'm reminded of the words of Toy Derricott when she would cope with her history. Joy is an act of resistance. I think of my anxiety attacks, my panic attacks, and I'm reminded that joy is an act of resistance. So I ask myself, what do I know about joy? I have to admit that not much. But I know I must search for joy. And I've figured out a few places to find joy. I find joy in the eyes of my wife, the eyes of my best friend, my dog, Delta Dawn. I find it when my other dog rolls over with her tongue out and asks for us to rub her belly, then kicks her feet. She's a little Jack Russell. I feel it when my daughters call, even if they're just calling their mom. I find it in the eyes of the people I trust. I feel it when I succeed in whatever video game I'm playing at the moment. I know joy when I laugh with the members of Hope Unitarian Church. I know it when I see your eyes and you smile back at me. Especially when you say that you got something out of my sermon. Just take note of that. I know joy in laughter. I know it in love. And most of all, I know it in hope. If love is our binding force and hope is where we put our energy, then joy is our lifeblood. Remember, they can't take it away from us. Don't let this time rob us of our joy. Because joy is an act of resistance, too. That doesn't mean we don't pay attention. It doesn't mean we don't worry or stress out. It doesn't mean we're okay with things happening. It doesn't mean we don't resist in other ways. It just means they can't take our wholeness from us. Because joy is part of who we are. So if you wouldn't mind, repeat after me that joy is an act of resistance. Joy is an act of resistance. One more time. Joy is an act of resistance. Thank you for listening. Our generosity recipient for this month, for the month of March, is Divus. Is that how they say it? Which stands for, and I know the first two words are domestic violence. Domestic Violence Intervention Services. If you read much about Toy Darracott, you read that she grew up and there was domestic violence in her home. As we learned this morning in Forum, domestic violence in Oklahoma is one of the highest places, has got some of the highest percentages of domestic violence in the United States. And they take a holistic approach at Divus. So if you would like to donate directly to our generosity recipient and you're writing a check, you can write a check to Hope and put generosity in the memo line. If you put cash in, it goes directly to the generosity recipient. If you would like at this time to pay your pledge or to donate to the church and you are using cash, there should be envelopes in the baskets and you can put your cash in those envelopes or just write your check. You also have options to pay online if you'd like to donate that way. We'd ask that you give as we consider our love and hope for the future. Thank you. Let's give thanks. We build on foundations we did not lay. We warm ourselves at fires we did not light. We sit in the shade of trees we did not plant. We drink from wells we did not dig. We profit from persons we did not know. We are ever bound in community. Our final hymn is actually What Wondrous Love Is This? Hymn number 18. And I would invite you at this time to rise in body or spirit as you feel called. And as we lit the chalice when we started, we will extinguish it now with these words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. In words of benediction, I remind you, do not let them rob you of your joy. Use it as an affirmation if you need, that joy is an act of resistance. Thank you. Let us stand together.
coming in.